Seminar to celebrate October Book Month. It's a new initiative with CGLCC that we are excited about, and celebrating and promoting reading is something we're hugely passionate about at Brainspired Publishing. So let me just give you a little bit about Brainspired Publishing. We were established during the last year and a half to fulfill the need for a publishing company that helps and supports LGBTQS plus authors get their stories out into the world. My partner, best-selling author Joie Lamar, on the call today, approached me with the idea. Wave, Joie. There's Joie. And I loved it. Some of you may know me as president of Inspired Media, the leading queer media publications and platforms. But when Joie approached, with Joie, we figured that combining the reach and popularity of our media with her expertise in publishing, we would be able to bring together an organization that can truly be there for queer authors. Excuse me. We're going to start with a chat with a number of LGBTQ2S plus authors. We believe that any organization that includes clients and team members from the LGBTQ2S plus community would benefit greatly from understanding our community. And what better way to understand our community than through our stories? After we're done, I'll have a bit of a conclusion of how to tie in the topic to business writing. And then if we have time, we will have a Q&A from everybody to myself or our authors. So I'll introduce our authors who are with us today. We will have a few questions with them. Let's get that going. First up is Joelle, Circé, Lamar. And Joelle, if you want to unmute. You're still muted.
Now?
And there you are. Hello. Welcome to the seminar.
Hey.
I'm gonna let you speak rather than introducing your book. So let's start by you telling us about your book, Breaking Free, and how it came about, and any lessons we can learn about our LGBTQ2S plus community from it. So what's the lesson that we can get out of the book itself?
Wow. Here goes. So my name's Joelle Circé Laramée, and my memoir, Breaking Free, 45 Years in the Wrong Body, was published by the good people at Brainspired Publishing. It's an account of my life and my perspective of being stuck in the wrong body and navigating the challenges through that lens. In order to break free, I first had to journey through confusion situations as a child and a teenager, then finding refuge in art, and finally transitioning to survive and be happy. I wrote the memoir as an honest and hopefully informative narration about how I came into my own as a woman. From darkness, hope shined, and I decided to live my truth. Many years before writing my memoir, I scribbled down notes, thoughts, and memories of events. And then I had secret dreams and through all those years. So those notes were the genesis of Breaking Free. At present, I'm busy working on my first thriller. And I find myself doing exactly what I want, creating once again. I say again, because prior to 2018, I was a painter for about 40 years. Back in the early 80s, I participated in an art show in the main entrance of a hospital in Montreal. Sorry if I'm speaking really quick, that's nerves.
No, it's okay. You're doing
well. And I was working there as a nurse's aide and at the same time taking art lessons. Anyhow, so visitors and staff began noticing the art, and before long, I was approached, to do portraits. First it was nurses, then doctors, and through word of mouth, I made a decent living for a number of years, and until I decided to go into another direction with my painting. But something was missing, And no matter how much I worked, how many paintings I created, I knew I wasn't complete and that I was in the wrong body. This is a narrative that, followed me all my life.
The story, yeah.
Yeah. And so this went on for a long time until one day I could pretend no more. I knew myself to be a female from early on in life, but was too worried about what family, friends, and coworkers might say. Basically, I was terrified of losing more than I could endure. So in 98, and here's where the changes come, I decided that enough was enough, and I was going to transition no matter what the cost. The following couple of years were both highly informative and as scary as it gets for me. Yet I was one of the lucky ones because I met the love of my life, and she helped me realize my dream. November 2001, I fully transitioned and life became brighter, happier, and I was finally home. I broke free of the prison I was in, the body that wasn't mine. Now I'd like to read something I received recently. It's a message from a volunteer at a homeless LGBTQ plus youth center in the US.
Please.
Whoops.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so the person writes, "Hello, I'm a psych nurse in Tucson, Arizona. I volunteer with homeless LGBTQIA youth, and I told my kids about you. I'm presently reading to them from a Kindle version of your memoir, Breaking Free, 45 Years in the Wrong Body. So many kids just need to know they aren't the freaks that they've been led to believe they are. It's good to introduce them to books they can relate to. I read in your book because it matters. They need to know they're not alone. I was 10 when someone snuck me a copy of Ruby Fruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown. Knowing I wasn't the only one made a huge difference in my life. I'm hoping LGBTQIA books will inspire the kids to at least get their GEDs. I'm not a teacher, just former runaway trying to help others. Thank you for sharing this peek into your life and struggles, and eventually rise to the life you worked so hard to attain, Terry." And that's it.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty powerful. So I guess this is a lot of the lessons that we're gonna learn reading Breaking Free. I just want to mention that Breaking Free was selected by CGLCC to be the featured book for the Book of the Month Club. So we're reading that book right now. If you want to join the book month, so the book club, you can reach out to CGLCC, read the book, and we're going to have a discussion about the book later in the month. As you can see, it's a very important book about transitioning. It's a very important topic for us to understand in this day and age in our community and in the world. I'm gonna switch now to questions about learning from you a bit about writing. Let's start with this. What was your writing process, writing this book? Or any new book you're working on? How do you approach a book? How do you approach a writing project?
Okay, so I'm going to go with the book I'm presently working on because that's the freshest one and
Sure.
the one I have more experience with.
Okay.
So it began with the notion of, the LGBT community and how, depending on the point of view, the way we're perceived and how we're treated. And it's also a lesson for the main, anyhow, how I wrote it is that I read a ton of novels, thrillers, mainly from various writers, and started getting an idea of how to go about bringing this story to life. I've always wanted to write something where there was a strong woman of trans origin protagonist who wasn't perfect by any means, but that in the end of the day, her better side went out on her less positive side.
Okay.
So the process was basically just, I wrote down the basic idea and did what I used to do as a painter. That is, start with the sketch and develop.
Okay, so you start with basically the umbrella idea of what you want to write about, where you want to take the reader. Okay. Let's talk about a specific character. Let's say the main character. How do you develop a character?
Well, I once read that you write what you know.
Okay.
And to an extent, you know, there's truth in that. And for me was basing that character not on me, but on things that I knew. Okay. Through experience.
So drawing from your experiences. Cool.
Absolutely. Okay. And also, you know, what I would have wished or hoped for becoming and things like that, you know, like, yeah. So I developed her based on that.
That's so familiar characters or from draw from the experience around you. Are all your friends somehow in the book? No.
Some of them.
Some of them are.
They're kind of disguised very loosely.
Cool. Yeah, I hear that from writers. Is there a time of day that you feel that you're more productive at writing? Yeah, let's talk about the writing process itself. How do you set your? I know you set yourself a schedule, and I watched that on your social media. But is there a better time of day that you feel more productive?
Now, it's like, yeah, I think mornings. Okay, after a couple of cups of coffee, you know, just to wipe away the cobwebs. I begin writing, and most times I don't really know where I'm going to go because I'm what's known as a pantser. I fly by the seat of my pants. Okay. So I don't have everything planned out in advance, and I take it from where I am, and I just kind of go with the flow, and I figure my way through it.
How long did it take you? Again, I'll let you answer, but I've seen it. I've seen your post. How long is it taking you from start of the novel to where you are now, about done?
It's been close to about a year now, I guess.
About a year, right?
For my debut novel. Okay. I mean, it's still maybe a year or two out. Okay. But yeah, about a year for the first draft.
So if anybody's thinking about writing a novel, you should dedicate a whole year of your life to that project.
At least for me, I'm slow. I'm a slowpoke.
I'm not sure who is from office. We'll bring that back to business at the end with a big conclusion. Wayne, thank you, Joelle, for your time. Let's move on to Mr. Wayne Harrison. Hello.
Hello.
Where are you located again? Let's tell everybody.
I'm located in St. John, New Brunswick. Actually, a small town outside Willow Grove, but no one knows where that is.
Well, welcome. I love the virtual world. We're all connecting from everywhere in Canada. So you wrote 4 books.
Yes.
A series. It's called the Journeys of Courage.
Right.
So tell us about your books, how it came about, and any lessons that we would learn out of reading the books.
Okay, the books came about out of looking at the foundation of my life. The first book is talking about being in fear, being in the closet kind of thing. And in the period of time when I was in my closet, I reflected on how the fear took power over my life. I love honesty. I love people. And the fear of people finding out that I was gay took all that on away. And I was able to fabricate a life or fool myself into doing it. So in book 1, Out of Fear in the series, it talks about all of that fear, where it comes from, what we're taught as people growing up, and how those thoughts and what we hear other people say affect what we do in our day-to-day. Okay. And take away what's so important to us, like honesty, and fabricate some kind of falseness so that people will accept us. Okay. And so the series was never meant to be a series, but it evolved that way. Okay. And it follows one family, the Matheson family, and their friends and family members and people around that. The first book centers around gay, and the second book centers around how the parents deal with a son being gay. And it causes evolution and growth in the parents, not only in the children, but in the parents as well. And so with that growth, I decided I would follow the journey that I personally went on. So being in fear first, so Out of Fear, the first book. The second one, Into Uncertainty, because when you come out, you step into a whole different world of who knows, who doesn't know, and how is that going to affect the relationships that we have. Parents into an uncertain world, and the main character, Brock, into an uncertain world. But he gradually evolves and grows, as does his parents. In book 3, Taking Control, it's all about, now that I know this new person, and how do we grow from this? What do I do with this world? And book 3 has the Matheson family doing some wonderful things that we never would have expected when we met them in book 1.
Okay.
And 4, they start making a difference. It deals with the idea of doing work for others. So making a difference. Now that I've evolved and grown of myself, how can I help other people?
The world. Very nice.
And so the books came together by chance, really. It was enjoyable to write all 4 books.
Nice. You can't ask for more of a project that you're working on. And I guess we're going to learn, reading the books, you would learn about our community, about coming out, about adapting to after coming out, about how it affects the families and friends and everybody in your sphere, basically.
And there's a big learning in the parents. Like, they're not gay, but they learned about how their world didn't honor and respect diversity. Okay. And so I think there's some big lessons on the value of honoring diversity and how we go about that, in who people are and where they come from and where they are and who they are in their evolution and growth. And then respecting the thoughts and perspectives and ideas. No right or wrong here. Let's understand that. And I respect that from the business writing perspective as well.
Fantastic. All right, we're gonna switch to the more writing stuff. What was your process writing? It's the same questions. What was your process writing the books? And yeah, how do you approach a book?
When I knew I was going to write a book, I was going to Mexico for 3 months, and I said, I'm going to write the book that I've always wanted to write. So I took a university course, and in that university course, they recommended Stephen King's book on writing. That's the name of the book, On Writing. Okay. And I read the book, and I got a lot of valuable steps. Not that I followed it step by step, but I kept coming back to it as I wrote. Okay. My process is pretty simple. I create a timeline first of what the story is about, and the characters fall out of that time. Okay. Who do I need to be in place at what time, and what role are they going to play? Okay. Once I have the characters and their role defined, I do a genealogy. I give them a birth date, their parents, their siblings, their marriage date, if there is such a thing, when they went to school. And it gives me the context as I'm writing my story. I just go back to that genealogy. And sometimes I've written something and go, ooh, I either have to change the genealogy or I have to change the storyline because I fix it. So I really get to know my characters deeply, and they evolve from personalities in my life or personalities that I've been introduced to in other books and whatnot. Okay. I like to teach. I like people to learn. And I'm very much a heart person. So the human condition is important to me. And so in my books, the human condition of evolving and growing comes out. And I like to be entertained. And so the storyline has something in it that's going to hopefully grab the audience and entertain them. And so that my process is back and forth between all of that. I remember once in Stephen King's, he says you have to kill off your children. Well, when I first read it, it was literal. But I learned about it a bit later on. After my first book, I had a piece in it that I just loved, that piece. But one of the editors that I had reading my book said, Wayne, that doesn't belong here. And I said, well, wait a second. And I tried to verify it. It was of a personal interest to me. Yeah. It was one of my babies, and it wasn't about a person, but it was about Brock loving history and architecture. And I was telling about the history of a building. The king and queen came for a visit in the early parts of 1906 to this structure that still exists today. And I was telling that story, but one of my editors said, nope, that's gone.
Oh, that one? Yeah.
And so I had to kill off.
You can be attached to the characters, I guess, if you have to do something with them. I have to watch the time, Wayne. So I'm going to just mention that what we're getting out of what I'm hearing for anybody watching, starting the timeline, so write the shell, drop in the characters or what you're writing about, but understand them and be ready to switch and change things along the way as you're writing. I'm gonna, since we mentioned character, how do you develop? Oh, you kind of talked about that. How do you develop a character? You kind of build them from scratch, I guess.
Yeah, I do build them from scratch and take seeds of a personality or things that come along the way from other people. And okay. I go, ooh, I like that trait. And so my characters are more amalgamations of several people.
That you know. Cool. Is there a time of day that you find as more productive for writing than other?
Yeah, not from a chronological period, but the time of day where I feel most inspired. So whether it's a sunset or a garden or whatever, if I'm feeling creative in the juices, that's when I write.
Down and do it. Cool. Okay. So wait for the inspiration. Thank you for your time, Wayne. Thank you for giving us that. I'm gonna switch to Joie. Hey, Joie.
Hi there.
Hello. All right. Well, you have a lot of books, so I don't even know where to start with you. But tell us more. About why you write, and I guess just a mention of the books, but to you, like as a combination of books, what gets you going?
So I started with writing my memoirs, which is in two parts: Mambo Lips and Salsa Hips. Mambo Lips being the younger Joie, and Salsa Hips being the older Joie, the newly released Joie into the world kind of book. I have a different approach completely than everybody else, and a different reason. I grew up in a very busy, very large Latin household, and knew at a very early age that I was different and attracted to females and masculine and all the things that are maybe put the fun and dysfunctional in my family. And I was very, the difference between a story like Joelle's where she needed to break free and a story like Wayne's where there was fear, I was the complete opposite. I was proud of what I was, although I didn't know what it was. And I was more about convincing my family that this was the way to go. And so my books were a regurgitation of those very funny and very sad stories as well, as any family experiences that shaped my coming out, my formal coming out. And then Salsa Hips, once I was out, is I call it the fine line between being unleashed and authentic, right?
Cool. I like that.
So and my process for writing that story was I regurgitated a lot of my memories that I thought were impactful. to myself, and that I wanted to see on shelves. I wrote the stories I wanted to see. Because
that's very good. That's a very powerful statement. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was trying to figure myself out, there was nothing for me to pick up on the book. No. There weren't any Latina stories, and there certainly weren't any lesbian stories, and there certainly weren't any Latina lesbian stories.
I'm going to mention you probably hit a big chord, because those are the books that were bestsellers, and especially in South America, the Latin community. Yeah. So obviously it's resonated with a lot of people who were waiting for that story to be told.
Yeah, they had a great underground, because a lot of, well, both my books are banned in certain countries, but the underground.
We love banned books.
That's right. They took an underground life of their own, especially in Brazil and Puerto Rico, where my family's from. And then I went on to write crime thrillers, my first one being G. And the process for that is, again, different.
I was going to say, you love thrillers, you love crime, you love horror, so you wrote what you like to see, kind of, probably, right?
Exactly. And I dreamt the premise, I dreamt the plot. I knew that every character, and I do that with every book I write, every character represents one of the letters in our rainbow community, LGBTQ. Yeah. And I'm committed to that, because I feel like no matter who picks that book up on a shelf, they're going to see themselves in my story. And yeah, so I wrote the first crime thriller, and that was a different process. I wrote that like I came out of engineering. My background was engineering and project management, and so I knew the beginning and I knew the end. And as a Latina, everything I write has a cadence, because that's how we live. I can't explain it any other way. And so my stories have a cadence as well. And I just managed that as it was a project.
Okay. That gives us an idea of your process of writing a book. How do you develop your characters?
I'm excruciatingly shy. I know it doesn't seem that way, but I fight through it.
I don't believe you, but okay.
I am. Because I'm so shy, I'm a people watcher. And so a lot of what I see and feel ends up in my characters. Sometimes there's a unique something to someone, and I kind of write it down and just add
That's
that in.
Actually a pretty good one. So guys who are watching, people watching and drawing from stories that you see around you, that's a great place for inspiration to write things. Cool.
For sure.
Is there a time of day that you prefer to write?
I prefer to write when I'm awake, and I say that because I dream of all of my stories. I dream my chapters. So as soon as I wake up, I write them down. And then over a period of time, they become a story.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that concludes our questions and chats with our authors. I'm just watching, still keeping an eye on the time. So how do we take all of that and understand how important it is, storytelling to business? Here's what I have to say. Storytelling conveys purpose. And for a business or brand in general, ones with purpose are noticed and win the loyalty of consumers. So it is not enough to have a product or service that solves a problem. Your company needs to stand out. That's just a general statement. For those whose job involve a lot of writing, I will say, as humans, we use stories to understand and find meaning in things. Stories are how we make sense of a world that is largely out of our control. We use them to decide who we are and what we think. We need stories to assert our identity, who we are and what we believe in and why and all that, and decide our morality and values, what is right, what is wrong, who are our allies, and who are the villains in the stories. That's the purpose that we get out of storytelling. In a business context, we constantly need to make decisions to get others to understand our way of thinking, to gain alliances, and to secure budgets. We're always writing in business, and we think we're not sometimes, but this is writing. This is why having a good understanding of storytelling is vital. It can be a powerful tool of persuasion and convincing the person you're talking to of your point of view is by telling stories. Often when we write at work, we are looking to persuade people. So whether you're submitting a bid, writing a case study, creating a strategic presentation, or writing internal or external communications, we aim to convince colleagues of our point of view, or decision makers to buy, sell, sign off, or agree to a project. We're always trying to sell something and convince somebody. Using a storytelling structure in any of those contexts will appeal to the humanity of whoever you're writing for or presenting to. That's really the big take of why we wanted to discuss this today. If you appeal to their human nature, you'll hold their attention, keep them engaged, and increase the likelihood of them agreeing with you. In the case of those who may not be from the LGBTQ+ community, and with this session, hopefully learning what stories are being told out there gives us an understanding of the stories that we need to engage or speak of as we're conversating with people who might be from the community. I'm gonna list some examples of how storytelling can improve your business writing. During a sales call with prospective clients and while networking, telling a story, telling an anecdote, telling something that somebody could relate to or draw from will definitely engage them and bring them closer to you and get them warmer in perceiving your pitch or your sale or your project or whatever. Telling stories in reports to show success to your board of directors, to your team members. That could be a very powerful tool to share with them something that makes it human rather than just telling them facts. Telling stories could help you increase employee awareness and management via internal messaging. For example, an internal newsletter or email on internet, on Slack. You can tell a story to engage your team and bring them closer to you. In any presentation that shows the value of what you do, telling a story would get more people, drawn into what you're trying to tell them. To conclude, and this is going to be a big long conclusion. So here are a few notes to take away, and this is some serious stuff here that we put together. So stories. Hold on, something happened to my computer. All right. Stories engage your audience. Number one, there's going to be 4 points, so take them down, take them away. Stories engage your audience is number one. A Nielsen study revealed or showed that our brains are far more engaged by storytelling than facts alone. Numbers and data and business proposals do matter, but they mean a lot more when built on the basis of a story. Put yourself in the audience's shoes. Would you want to sit there while someone throws numbers and data at you? No. But if somebody weaves this into an interesting story that you can relate to, yeah, absolutely. The same thing could apply to any piece of communication for business. A website, any of that, I see that applicable. Point number 2, stories create a human connection. If you have an idea or a proposal, likely there's a story behind it. Like Brainspired Publishing. The story is Joie said, well, I've been out there in the world writing, and I worked with some awesome publishers, but I always felt that LGBTQ is considered a genre. They have a percentage that they have to fill in that genre, and they just chuck it to a genre. I did not like that when she said that to me, because we're not a genre, we're people. We read all genres. We should be able to write in all genres. We should be put in all genres as queer authors who are contributing to that genre. So Joey said, let's create Brainspired Publishing. And I said, yes. And that's our story. There you go. So that's how we came about. And see, that makes it more interesting when you frame it as a human interaction. 3, stories are more memorable than numbers. Research by Forbes, again, another research, has demonstrated that delivering, and this is a big number, that delivering messages via stories can be 20 times more memorable than relying on facts. That's a very big multipliers. That's because with stories, you have something to tell. There's a narrative, an arc, and emotional moments, suspense, and climax that you, as someone doing a workshop, writing a proposal, creating promotional materials, writing copy for a website, can benefit from. So maybe that's one way we can look at a project where we're writing. Make your boss the villain. No, I'm kidding. So just to create an arc of something that gets people engaged in what you're telling them. Storytelling, number 4 in the conclusion. Storytelling offers a competitive advantage. For all of us, it's too easy to get lost in all the noise. And by God, what we have these days is just a lot of noise from everywhere. Social media, internet, TV, blah, 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 blah. The fact is, decision-making, whether you are trying to convince someone on an idea or get more clients to your business, is more emotional. And that's why we forget. It is. I actually say a line to my sales team at the media, our advertising consultants, is do remember, business owners and business operators are people. You are speaking to a human. You're not just throwing numbers and facts, whatever. You need to care for them, talk about their stories, figure out their challenges, and address that. And yeah, it is absolutely, what we do is emotional. At the end of the day, we are people. Even in our work, even in our writing, even in our developing projects, we are still human beings who are more inclined to participate by emotions. So it is, all this writing is more emotional than it is logical. So the ability to tell a good story or a yarn is essential if you want to stand out and create a strong brand or convincing argument, etc. Tell a remarkable story and you can win over your audience. It applies pretty much to everything. We're already storytellers in our day-to-day lives, whether we realize it or not. And actively bringing a little storytelling magic into your business, into our business writing, can hugely improve the engagement levels of our communications, both inside and outside of our organization. And with that, thank you for giving us the time to go over this with you. And we have 15 minutes, do we? We have 15 minutes, right? For any questions or any discussions on the topic that anyone would like.
Wow.
Nope. Donna,
I'm trying to, I have an interesting question then. Because you are, I don't know how to phrase it in a different format, but you're writing a novel and you're writing a business proposal or report, and to incorporate storytelling, it's not, you may not have the opportunity to say, I prefer to write in the morning or I prefer to write in the evening.
Fair enough.
Or whatever.
Okay.
How do you then get the creative side of you going when it's not at your leisure.
Fair enough, actually. Yeah, Joey, go ahead.
I think I can answer that because I came from the corporate world and was still in the corporate world as an engineer and project manager while I was writing novels. I think you have to be motivated by the proposal or the technical piece that you're writing. And I know that that's a hard thing to say because some people are just given a task to write about or be involved in. And for me, it was always deep research into what I was proposing to the customer so that I could be passionate about it when I wrote about it. And also when I delivered what I wrote. I always felt that if I didn't love it or at least respect it in some way, that I could not deliver it. So it's not about a time of day, but it's about the passion behind what you're writing, I suppose.
I love that. Or I mean, I was thinking maybe set it aside for a day and come back at it tomorrow. Hopefully, you'll get the inspiration as the day goes along and into your evening. Sometimes I just want to make something a more compelling story or a more compelling argument. I just wait for the inspiration, and by reading, by researching, by looking online, something might click with you and inspires you. I'm not saying that all business communication should be a whole story. It needs to maybe start, here's why I'm presenting this to you, because this is the story that comes to mind. And this is what the challenge that we're trying to address today. And here's a couple of facts that supports that story or what I'm trying to propose to you. Every situation is different, depends on what you're writing or what you're engaging in. Hope that helped.
Yes.
All right. Do you feel that we would get any other questions from anybody?
I think we're good. This was fantastic. I really appreciate this session. It's very informative. We are going to add the link to this presentation onto the book club session. If you have not registered, please go on to our website. It's on the 27th.
I can't remember. 27th, I think so. Yeah, I can look
of October.
27th.
Yeah.
And we are looking to have, you can purchase the book through Inspired Media. And great story. We had a nice introduction. Thank you, Jolie. Looking forward to this session. So please, we hope you will join us.
Yeah, read the book. It's a beautiful book. It's a lot of lessons to learn from it. And we will kind of bring your coffee. It'll be an after work kind of thing. Bring your coffee. We'll have a coffee session like any book club. We'll discuss together, and we're gonna have Joelle drop by and maybe even have her read a paragraph or two in her own voice as well.
No problem. It'd be a pleasure.
Well, thank you all very much for attending. Thank you to all of our guests, our speakers today. We look forward to seeing you at an upcoming event. Please continue to look at our website. We have lots of events, relevant events for business and things such as our book club. That's educational as well. But please visit cglcc.ca for any information that you think might be helpful. We keep adding a lot of the resources onto there. But we will see you all soon.
Thank you. I'm really gonna
thank you for having us.
Thank you. I'm gonna say huge applause to CGLCC for taking initiatives to do more than business and connect other parts of the community to the business.
Thank you all very much for the support.
Thank you.
Stay well, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.